What's good, y'all? It's the Demouchets REACT, and we're back with another video. Who we got today, C?
Today we're back with another American reaction. So excited about this video. If you're new to us
And we're new to you,
make sure you scroll down,
hit that subscribe button,
and turn on the post notification bell
because we're on the road to 200K.
And we cannot get there without you guys, alright? Join the family. Without further ado, let's get into the video.
Let's get it.
To get the puck sliding, let's move our scope quickly to the First World War, in which the Canadians laid the groundwork for their reputation as shock troopers. Mostly, the troops of the Canadian Corps were known for their savage raids on enemy trenches and their unwritten take no prisoner and kill the wounded policies. Locked in a stalemate in opposing trenches, the Canadians devised all manner of strategies and weaponry to flip the chessboard upside down and clean up the enemy pieces. Cutting through barbed wire, they crept upon them in the cover of night with painted faces, launching either savage, unforeshadowed raids or perking up their ears and eavesdropping on enemy plans. In said raids, the Canadians gorged their bayonets with blood and made good use of improvised melee weapons, paying little attention to attempts at surrender and skewering bandaged and unarmed men just the same as men on their feet with rifles. They even concocted an alchemist's shelf of homebrew explosives, like pipe bombs and jam jars loaded with nails and gunpowder. I think it's a safe bet to say that at least one grenade is made with a maple syrup jar.
Come on, man.
There are also tales of Canadian troops using temporary truces, like on Christmas Day, as a chance to catch their enemy with his stockings on, sending him grenades instead of Christmas ham and bullets through the brain instead of season's greetings. Now, it could be argued that Canadians were acting out of vengeance, but couldn't that argument be used to justify most atrocities in most wars? Canadian Lieutenant R.C. Germain's letter home to his parents makes the revenge excuse about as clear as the sap from a freshly tapped maple tree. After losing half of my company there, we rushed them, and they had the nerve to throw up their hands and cry "Camarade." All the camarade they got was a foot of cold steel, while I blew their brains out with my revolver. Despite being a little stab-happy with enemy soldiers, Canadian troops were known for being quite, as we contemporary folk have come to expect, polite to civilian populations. Before we have a look at Canadian reputation in World War II and some of its stories, it might pay to know about Canada's involvement in the war. Canada waited until the 10th of September 1939 to declare war on Germany because it didn't want to follow Britain like a Commonwealth sheep. It took Canada until the 11th of June 1940 to declare war on Italy and the 7th of December 1941 to declare it on Japan. Overall, about 10% of Canada's population fought for her and the Allies. This amounted to around 1,100,000 Canadians serving in the Canadian Army, the Royal Canadian Navy, and the Royal Canadian Air Force. Of this 1,100,000, the majority were volunteers. Canadians fought in almost every theatre of World War II, notably in the defence of the United Kingdom, the Battle of Hong Kong, the Dieppe Raid, the invasions of Sicily and Italy, the Normandy landings and the liberation of France, and the liberation of Belgium and the Netherlands. The Canadian Navy escorted Allied ships across the Atlantic and maintained a high presence in the Pacific Ocean, and pilots from the Canadian Air Force flew under the wing of the British Royal Air Force.
See, that just takes everything. This is like take our whole perspective to a whole new level. We just did a video of the comedy whenever they was talking about Canadians and they was talking about like what war and this, that, and the third and how they don't really get into all that. But look, they did a number of incidents.
Yes,
a number.
They say unalive everybody.
Yeah.
We don't care about the wounded. We don't care about nothing.
None of that.
Ain't no sorry.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. That's what they saying. Sorry then.
No sorries.
No sorries. No takebacks.
German submarines sunk Canadian naval and merchant vessels in the water of Canada and Newfoundland and attacked the loading pier at Bell Island. And the Japanese also attacked a lighthouse on Vancouver Island, though little else occurred in Canadian waters or on mainland Canada. Of the military operations in which Canadians were involved, their ferocity and inventiveness stood out in the Battle of Ortona, the Normandy landings, and the liberation of Belgium and the Netherlands. Through the medieval streets of Ortona, Italy, The Canadians and Germans engaged in brutal room-to-room, hand-to-hand fighting, with the Germans eventually having to withdraw. Here, the Canadians coined the tactic mouse holding, which is basically blowing holes in buildings to allow the passage of infantry rather than running into enemy bullets in the open. In the D-Day landings, the Canadians landed on Juno Beach, the second most resisted beachhead besides Omaha. The Canadians penetrated further inland than anyone else, coming up against some of the strongest units in the German military. In Belgium and the Netherlands, the Canadians spent thousands and thousands of Canadian lives to drive the Germans back and get food to the starving civilian populations. They even shared rations with civilians and gave them blankets. Some of the most intense combat here was in the Battle of Scheldt, where the Allies fought through flooded terrain against stiff German defenses for about a month. This battle alone cost the Canadians more than 6,000 casualties. This latter triumph, particularly the part about getting food to the starving civilians, is certainly keeping with Canadian tendencies in the First World War, though the following atrocity paints a bit of a different picture. Canadian Lieutenant Colonel Frederick E. Wiggle was shot dead on approach to the town of Friseute, Germany, and a rumor spread that it was a civilian sniper from that town who shot him. Back on that revenge train, the Canadians burnt down the entire town, apparently moving its citizens onward before setting their homes on fire. It was discovered later that Wiggle was shot by German soldiers. Now, the intent of emphasizing Canadian brutality in World War I and mentioning the Friseute incident is not to take away from Canadian bravery in either world conflict. Like I said before, Canadians were some of the most well-trained and formidable soldiers on any front in any war, and I think the best way to communicate that is to share some stories involving some of the most heroic Canadian soldiers in World War II. On the 14th of December 1943, Canadian Captain Paul Triquet and his company, supported by an armoured squadron, tried to cross the gully and take the Casa Berardi, a hamlet on the Orto Orsona lateral, Italy. Under heavy machine gun and mortar fire, Triquet ran around organising and inspiring what remained of his men, saying, "There are enemy in front of us, behind us, and on our flanks. There is only one safe place. That is on the objective," before charging forward and breaking through the enemy line. Triquet's company and the supporting tank squadron pushed right up to the edge of Casa Berardi, where he set up defenses and fought off a tank-supported German counterattack with whatever weapons he could find.
There's a risk.
He held the defensive perimeter against superior numbers until the rest of the battalion came in and relieved the company. Triquet's utter disregard of danger, his cheerfulness and tireless devotion inspired his men, and his tactical skill and leadership facilitated the capture at a vital point on the Ortona Rossona lateral.
Up. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Bravery.
That's people you need in the military, right there. People who are not afraid of nothing.
Yeah.
Stick to the objective.
Man, he went head first. It's like, man, he was surrounded. I can't imagine.
Gotta go forward. That is a message.
Talk about it.
When things are going on in your life, coming from this way, you got a tunnel vision.
You gotta take it all in.
That was a word for me.
Stick to the plan, stick to the purpose, stick to the objective. And no matter how things are looking, keep going forward. Oftentimes people quit. Yeah. Oftentimes people lay down. They accept the dirt as defeat. Yeah. This man say, "Look, I'm taking everything." He got in the tank and went straight forward.
This reminds me of that picture of that meme that I really like. The two men who is digging for the diamonds. One is almost there. All he got is like a inch.
Two more taps.
And he turned around. The other man, he's still going. And he going like he going crazy to get it.
Yeah. Don't know what's on the other side. He's just sticking to the plan. You got to keep digging for it.
The objective is to find it.
I hope y'all got the message.
Hopefully.
I hope y'all got it.
On the 18th of August 1944, Canadian Major David Vivian Currie was in command of a force of tanks, self-propelled anti-tank guns and infantry. His task was to block an escape route from the Falaise pocket in the village of Solember-sur-Divers, Normandy. Currie went in alone to scout German defenses and to free the crew of two Allied tanks which were previously disabled. Under heavy mortar fire, he succeeded. The Germans then kept throwing counterattacks at Currie and his men Until on the 20th, one final German counterattack was thwarted by Curie, costing the Germans some 2,900 casualties. Throughout these 3 days of intense combat, Curie displayed gallant conduct and a contempt of danger and collected and inspired his men. One of his officers said, "We knew at one stage that it was going to be a fight to the finish, but he was so cool about it, it was impossible for us to get excited." Over the 3 days, Curie barely got an hour's sleep, and when it was over, he fell asleep standing and then crashed to the ground. Curie's courage and devotion to duty had a far-reaching effect on the successful outcome of the battle.
Bro, and I was just thinking about that. Like, you gotta understand what type of world they're living in when they're suiting up and preparing for war. It's so different, something you gotta actually be in to understand it, and then the longevity of it. I'm talking about months, years, however long it may take. And I'm thinking about it like, you can't really sleep. Your life is on the line.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Your country's on the line.
And then he's actually, after everything was said and done, he finally got some rest.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's wild.
Ooh. Listen, everybody not fit for the military, but those who are, let us thank them.
Yeah.
Maybe anybody but me. I like my sleep. I do.
I hear you.
I work hard now.
French-Canadian Corporal Leo Major was also in Normandy, where he captured a German armoured vehicle which held secret codes and lost an eye to a phosphorus grenade. He stayed in service, saying that he looked like a pirate. However, it wasn't in Normandy where Leo earned his first Distinguished Conduct Medal, but in the Netherlands in 1945. Actually, before we go there, Leo single-handedly captured 93 Germans in the Battle of Schelde. When out on a solo reconnaissance mission in 1944, he escorted all 93 of them back to his camp, where he would not accept a DCM because he considered the person awarding it to him to be incompetent. Back to 1945 and the real DCM. After breaking his back, ribs, and both ankles when the car he was in was hit by a landmine, Leo went on a recon mission with a friend in the city of Zwolle. His friend was killed, so Major continued alone, capturing a German soldier, making the soldier take him to his officer, who was in a bar, and then telling that German officer that the Canadian artillery was going to shell and kill them all. Leo then ran through the city, firing his gun and lobbing grenades, fooling the Germans into thinking the Canadian army was invading. All through the night, Major brought captured German troops back to his camp, resting in civilian houses whenever he needed to catch his breath.
We did hear that.
He then set a Gestapo HQ on fire and assaulted a Nazi SS HQ before meeting with members of the Dutch resistance and informing them that he had liberated the entire city by himself. I've got to say, that last one is pure insanity. What an absolute machine. Overall, based on the available evidence at least, I think Canadians in World War II abandoned their unofficial take no prisoner and kill the wounded policies of World War I. Obviously, this is a generalization, and the Vliesoyte incident certainly demonstrates that they were at least capable of unjust violence, though there is no comparing the deeds of the Canadians to, say, the Germans, the Japanese, and the Soviets. As evinced by the stories of Paul Triquet, David Curie, and Leo Major, Canadian courage and formidability was in no short supply, and I believe modern-day Canadians should be proud of how the Canadian military cleaned up their act after World War I and made such a brave and significant contribution to an Allied victory in the Second World War. Anyways guys, make sure you let me know your thoughts on Canada and some of the super soldiers we...
Alright man, we're gonna separate that. Make sure you check his channel out.
That was a good video.
It was really good. Very detailed.
Yeah, my favorite part about exploring Canada with reactions is their history. I love the history moments, the heritage moments, and I love learning about the military. They have done so much that I was not aware of. The guy with the one eye patch, I think we reacted to that like a year or 2 years ago. That was a great story. I love hearing about their military battles.
Yeah, man.
And like the Netherlands, how they freed the Netherlands, that was cool.
Yeah. Hey, ain't no sorries.
Yeah,
they go hard in real life. You know what I'm saying? So you got to know your history and, put the ducks in a row, bro. Line it up. Because people out there was really doing their thing, like fighting for their country, really going into the depths of the dust to make sure everything is secure. Thinking about the next generation. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what it was about. Everything is on the line at that point, you know?
Yeah, so we hope you guys enjoyed this video with us. Be sure to subscribe. We'll see you soon.
Peace.